In the early days, man, I'm talking about now because I did some research as well. When you first started, and what really kind of got you when you went and found the drums when you were young and started to play them, and you were like, "Oh my God." Just tell me a little bit about that for a minute. I know you don't. We don't want to go back to when you were 16 because you're only 17 now, 18. Right. But that was incredible. That was like, I love that story of how you just saw the drums and went for it.
Basically, I mean, but I was way younger than a teenager. I was when I first started asking for drums, I was about 3,
Oh my God.
and when I got behind a kit, I was about 6 or 7, and I started getting drums at 7. I got the toy drums, but that situation where I saw the drums and I just jumped on them, I was a little kid. I loved the way that they looked.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
loved the roll of the drums. I loved the way that you use
Yes.
four-way coordination. You use
Yes.
all the limbs. It's very physical. And I love moving my entire body. I love using my entire body. So for me, that's a real beautiful aspect of playing. And it's very important for me because I feel like I'm putting all of myself
Yes.
into
Yes.
what I'm doing, not only in an emotional way, but in a very, very physical way, because you're using everything. And so it was just an attraction for me right away. That love has it's never died. It's never waned at all.
Tell me a little bit about Lenny before you kind of, how do we say, made it big time. Lenny was your first vehicle of stardom, yeah?
On that level,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely
Yes.
yes.
A
He was not
notoriety.
my
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was not my first pop gig. My first pop gig actually was with Al B. Sure. And
Oh my God! What? When I was in
that
Shalimar?
yeah, but I didn't stay with him
Mm.
long. That's when he had his hit. And I joined his band. But I'm like I said, and like you said, and like I'm a bebopper. I'm a jazz drummer.
Oh yeah,
And right after we
no
started
doubt.
rehearsing, I got a call from Joe Henderson to go to Europe, and so I,
Mm-hmm.
I said, "See you later, I'll be sure." So that was it. That was it for the I'll be sure show. I was done, and I was cool. I liked this song. I liked him. It was fun, but I wanted to stretch out and really play,
Yeah.
so I went with Joe
Uh,
Joe Henderson. And then I played different styles. I was in Boston. I was in a vocal fusion band with
mm-hmm.
this really cool singer. And I had my own band called Spontaneous Combustion.
Yes. Yes.
And that was my first band. And we played anything and everything. And we barely rehearsed. So everything was real fresh and real new.
I
And,
love that.
we played all kinds of stuff in basically the jazz rock vein. So I played with other bands that played different styles, and in Boston, going to school there, I was able to
Yes.
play in
Yeah.
multiple situations because there were so many students coming from so many different directions. It was a
Mm-hmm.
great place to explore
Oh yeah.
and play stuff. So I played in straight ahead bands. I played in bands that played African rhythms out of the Latin concept.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
played in rock bands. I played in jazz rock bands. I played in really complicated odd meter bands. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of different stuff. I played with singers. I did all kinds of gigs. And when I moved to New York, I was focusing on chasing and playing and furthering jazz in a very modern way.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
that's my favorite
Of
music.
course.
And I was not even thinking about playing anything else except playing with Miles Davis. I wanted to play with
Oh
Miles no matter
God.
what.
Right.
Yes, I wanted to
Oh
play with
my
Miles so
goodness.
bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that Lenny came around was that a friend of mine, the brother of my boyfriend at that time, was a saxophone player who was
Mm-hmm.
friends with Lenny, and he said, I have this friend. His name is Lenny Kravitz, and uh, he's a rock and roll musician. And I said, who? I didn't
Right.
know who he was.
Right.
I had no idea. I never heard a song. I didn't know anything about him.
Neither did
I
I in
said, who
those.
is he?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I was like, who is this? And he said, well, he was married to Lisa Bonet.
Right.
And I was like,
Right.
oh, okay, I know Lisa Bonet because I watch the Cosby Show all the time. So I was like,
Right.
oh, okay.
Okay.
And then my friend said, well, he likes Gretsch drums and Cage Legend cymbals. And I said, a rock and roller can hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like him already. So he was like, "Well, you want to meet him?" He said, "Because last time I talked to him, he was looking for a drummer."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Okay." And months went by. I completely forgot about it. And Antoine called me up and he said, "Hey, I got my friend Lenny on the other line. He called me and he's still looking for a drummer. And you want to talk to him?" I
Wow.
said, "Okay." So he passed us through, and Lenny was very pleasant, very cool on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Do you have your drums set up there?" And I said, "Yes." So he asked me if I would play, and I did. I played over the phone.
Over the phone?
And the only thing, yeah,
Oh.
and I was just thinking, it's probably really loud because the phone speaker's real small and you probably couldn't really hear anything.
Yeah.
It's probably all distorted. So
Mm-hmm.
I went back to the phone and I said, "Oh, could you hear anything? Was it clear?" And he said, "Yeah, I could hear it. I'm in LA. Can you fly out here right now?"
Good
And
Lord.
I said, "Okay." I wasn't doing anything. And he said, "Well, just come out for 1 or 2 days." He said, "Don't pack for more than that. Just pack for 1 or 2 days. I'll fly you out here. You come out and play a casual thing with my band, no
Mm-hmm.
strings attached,
Mm-hmm.
and then I send you home. We just see how it feels,
Mm-hmm.
and then I send you home." So I thought, okay, well, this will be cool. I get to meet some musicians and
Mm-hmm.
play. I've never been to LA. I can go to LA. I'll just go for a couple days, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
come home. So that was right at the end of 1992, just after Christmas. And I went right after Christmas. And instead of, I got there
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and Lenny picked me. It was such a cute, it was so cute. He picked me up himself at the airport. And I really didn't know who I was looking for, but I saw this person with these dreadlocks. And I'm like, that must be him. That's got to be him. There's nobody else that looks like that in here. So I
Oh.
guess that's him. He didn't take me to where we were going to play right away. He took me to a casting that he was doing for some movie, and he went in the room and did his audition, I guess, and then he came out and he took me another place.
Mm-hmm.
We drove up to this house, and he barely said anything, but we pulled in, and out comes this lady, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" And it was his mom, who I grew up watching on
Yes.
TV because
Yes.
it was Roxy Roker from the
Right.
Jeffersons,
Yes.
and I was floored because her personality was so beautiful. I
Mm-hmm.
fell in love with her vibe, and it was just so amazing to meet her. She was such a beautiful soul.
Oh.
I feel her spirit when I say that right now. She's
Mm-hmm.
really, really beautiful lady, inside and out.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and so, yeah, it was wonderful. It's like a beautiful thing because I grew up with her,
Yes. Yeah.
and so to get the confirmation that she was also an incredible person in real life
Yeah, I hear you.
was fantastic because sometimes it's not that way, but with her it was.
As we
And
know, no doubt.
yes,
No doubt.
after the visit, yes, and after the visit, we went to the house where Lenny was staying, which
Mm-hmm.
is a mansion that Rick Rubin had just purchased. And there was barely nothing in it. There was no furniture. There was some chairs, a few things here and there. But this is where Lenny was staying, or I guess Rick was letting him crash there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was sitting in this big room downstairs in the basement level, and Lenny said, "Oh, the gear is not here yet because he rented instruments from SIR."
Yes. Yes.
And he said, "Nothing's here yet." And so I'm sitting and nobody's talking to me. I don't know anybody. People are leaving, walking around, and I'm just sitting there by
Oh my
myself.
God. Oh
And then
man.
I saw somebody come in, and the person had a snare drum, and I'm like, "Okay, I guess the stuff is here, but that's weird that there's nothing in cases and they're bringing it piecemeal like that. That's very strange." Another cat came in with a bass drum pedal, and then somebody
Whoa.
came in with sticks. I'm like, "Oh, these are drummers." And like 40 drummers showed up.
Oh my good. Whoa.
And then I thought, okay, this is an audition. This is not just a relaxed little thing. I guess this is
Mm-hmm.
an audition. So I had jet lag
Oh.
from the flight, and I was so excited about going. I didn't sleep that night, so I went outside and sat in a lounge chair by the patio, and
Mm-hmm.
I fell
Mm-hmm.
asleep.
Oh my
And I
God.
guess in that time, I know. And in that time, the gear came and they set it up and whatever. And his assistant, she came out and she was like, "Cindy, Cindy, wake up. Lenny's been looking for you. He
Mm-hmm.
wanted you to play first, but he had to have some other drummer play because he couldn't find you." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh
So
my
I
God.
hopped up, and there was a radio going in the room where all the drummers were, and they were playing his new song at the time, which was "Are You Gonna Go My
Yeah.
Way?" And that
Yeah.
was one of the songs that we were going to play. And I hadn't really heard it, but I was listening just as I was, going through, so I kind of caught a vibe. So I went into the other room where we were supposed to play, and we played "Are You Gonna Go My Way?" We played a blues, and we played something else. I don't remember what the other song
Mhm.
was. We played
Mhm.
something else. And Lenny said, okay, the auditions are done. I want to choose Cindy. And I was like, really? Okay. And so I walked out of the room, and I think his manager who says, well, dude, you got like about 38 other people
Oh my
standing out there waiting
God.
for audition. It's not really cool that you don't audition them when they came all this way for an audition.
Okay.
So he he did audition them, and he found one guy in there that he liked, and
Mhm.
then there was a guy coming from London. I forget his name. Really good drummer. Maybe I'll remember his name in a minute.
That's
But he
okay.
was coming
Mhm.
from
Mhm.
London to audition.
Oh my God.
So the next day, Lenny had the guy that he found that he liked and me play, and
Mhm.
then the guy play and me play, and he said, I still want Cindy. So they dismissed the other guy. And then the other drummer, his name was Lee something, and this guy ended up actually playing with Robert Plant, but he auditioned him and
Oh
me, you know,
yes. Yeah.
alternately like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
auditioned us. Yes, I forget his last name, but he auditioned. You know, he let him play, then me, then him, then me, and he still chose me. So that was it. We started rehearsing, and I started learning all the songs. I was in the basement, just kind of living down there, learning all the
Oh my
material.
goodness.
And I ended up staying there for 2 weeks. And at the end of that 2 weeks, we did the first video that I did with him called "Are You Gonna Go My Way?"
Yes.
Because that song was out at that point.
Right.
So we did
Right.
that video, and it was a long day, like a 16-hour shoot or something, 18 hours. And at the end of that, his manager, Craig Fruin,
Yes.
his guitar player, Craig
Mhm.
Ross, his assistant, Deborah, and I think the bass player, Tony Bright, they
Mhm.
walked me outside, and Lenny said, so you want to join my band? And I said, okay, when do we start? And he started laughing. He said, we started 2 weeks ago.
Oh my
So
God.
that was that. You know,
Two
that was
days
the end of
turned into
1992.
2 weeks.
It turned into 2 weeks. Yeah. So I spent New Year's there because I went right before New Year's, and I ended up staying there for New Year's. In fact, we celebrated New Year's in that house. A bunch of his friends came over, and it was like a little New Year's party
Mhm.
right there in that house.
Mhm.
But after that, I went back home to New York, and we started rehearsing in New York. And that 2 days lasted 15 years.
Oh my God. That is
Yes.
that is that's unbelievable. I mean,
And then I did another 2 years with him in 2014 and 2015. We toured again, and that was a blast. We had a really, really good time on that one too. Really good time on that one too. Really